Ela Levou e Mendigo para Casa, mas o que descobriu a 3AM Mudou Tudo para Sempre. As the clock struck 3, the moon hung high and cold in the night sky, casting eerie shadows that danced on the walls of a small, cramped apartment. Ela's heart raced, a wild drum in her chest. What lay ahead was a mystery that twisted like a ghostly hand around her throat. Earlier that day, she had spotted him, a scruffy man with wild hair and hollow eyes, sitting beneath an old oak tree. It wasn't just his ragged clothes or the deep, sorrowful lines carved into his face that pulled at her heartstrings. No, it was the strange glow that seemed to emanate from him, a flicker of something supernatural that sent shivers down her spine. With hesitation bubbling in her stomach, Ela had taken him in, driven by a mix of compassion and unwarranted curiosity. But as they entered the apartment, the air thickened with something ominous. Shadows grew longer and twisted into grotesque shapes, filling every corner of her mind with dread. The way he looked around, wide-eyed and fearful, sent an icy chill crawling along her skin. "Do you feel that?" he whispered, a tremor in his voice. The silence was deafening, the strangest thing. Just as she closed the door behind them, a low, hissing whisper swept through the room. It was so faint, yet it felt like icy fingers tracing the nape of her neck. Ela's eyes darted to the window. Was something watching them from outside? Her breathing quickened, anxiety choking her. She glanced at the man, his expression frozen in shock, disbelief mingling with a flicker of recognition. What had he brought into her home? Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the kitchen, startling her. Her heart leapt. She felt the weight of 1,000 eyes in the darkness, waiting, watching. What would come next? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Ela took a deep breath and stepped cautiously toward the kitchen, each step echoing like a drumbeat of impending danger. The shadows swirled around her, closing in as if they had a life of their own. The man followed her, his breath ragged. "We shouldn't be here, not now." What could he possibly mean? What secrets did he hide? A chill slithered down her spine as the air thickened, the sense of unease clawing at her. Suddenly, she felt a shiver run through her body, not from the cold but from the thrill of the unknown. Would she come to regret this moment? Or would it plunge her into a nightmare she could never escape? Ila's hand trembled as she reached for the kitchen door. The smell of something metallic lingered on the air, sharp and unsettling. With a deep breath, she pushed it open, and her heart slammed against her ribcage like a trapped bird. It was chaos. The metal trash can lay toppled on its side, spilling out scraps of last week's leftovers. Amongst the garbage, a strange object glinted. Something unearthly. A shard of glass. No, it was too luminescent, radiating a glow that seemed to pulse in sync with the shadows around it. "Stay back," the man shouted, his voice ragged, making her heart skip. He rushed past her, moving toward the source of the chaos. She could see the fear boiling in his eyes, a desperation that clenched around her throat. "Wait," she called after him, but it was too late. He'd already reached the shimmering piece of whatever it was, crouching low, shaking. As he lifted it cautiously, Ela could see it more clearly. It was a small amulet, intricately carved, the symbols on it swirling like smoke. The moment he touched it, the entire room seemed to shudder, the shadows writhing like snakes. An unnatural wind howled through the apartment, slamming the door shut behind her. Ela gasped as the ambient light flickered, plunging everything into a twilight hue. "Put it down," she yelled, her voice piercing through the encroaching darkness. The man's face was a portrait of confusion, illuminated by the amulet's glow. She took a step forward, her instincts screaming that this wasn't just an object. It was a key, a dangerous one. "Ela, you don't understand," he started, but he didn't finish. The moment he grasped the amulet tightly within his fist, the shadows morphed into a grinding tempo, a constant thrum that reverberated through the floor. "It's calling to me," he mumbled, as if in a trance. His eyes glazed over, peering into the abyss where ordinary light failed. "What do you mean?" Her heart raced as she felt the urge to run slamming against her, but curiosity pinned her feet to the ground. If she turned back now, if she left him like this, a guttural voice resonated from the depths of the room, low and menacing. "Release me, did you hear that?" She breathed, her voice barely a whisper, the icy realization creeping in. It wasn't just the shadows. It was something else. The air quivered, drowning them both in foreboding. The scruffy man jerked his head, coming back to her. "We have to go. Now." His urgency snapped her from the paralysis of fear. But where could they go? The way out was blocked by the shadows or whatever lurked within them. "Why did you take this thing?" she shouted, desperation lacing her words. "What did you bring into my home?" "I thought I could save us," he replied, anguish warping his expression. "But it's too late. It's already begun." In one swift motion, he tossed the amulet onto the floor. The moment it hit, the shadows prowled closer, the very essence of the room transforming into a living nightmare. The glow spilled out, enveloping them like a suffocating fog. Ela felt a panicked urge to scream, but desperation choked her. In that moment, she realized she was no longer just an innocent woman helping a stranger, she was now part of a nightmare unfolding. Before she could catch her breath, the kitchen wall behind them cracked and splintered as if something malevolent were battling to break free. "Run!" she screamed again, and they lunged toward the door, the faintest glimmer of hope illuminating their escape. What lay beyond that door could very well be the fissure that led into a darkness deeper than they had ever known, and Ela was about to find out. But just as they reached the threshold, a chilling voice echoed one last time. "Choose." The air crackled with tension as Ela and the man froze. What kind of choice did they face, and would it lead to salvation or ruin? The shadows twisted and writhed around them, seeping into the corners of the room as if inching closer, hungry for prey. Ila's breath hitched in her throat. "Choose," the voice demanded again, a sinister whisper that seemed to echo off the walls and bounce back like a taunt. "What does it mean?" she asked, her voice trembling despite her attempts to stay steady. Fear fluttered in her chest, and all she could think of was the door behind her. Freedom felt so close and yet so far. The man's eyes darted around the room, panic etched into his features like lines in a weathered map. We can't stay here," he said hoarsely, his grip on the amulet tightening as if it might offer them a shred of safety. "But if we run, there's no telling what will come after us." Ela thought of the dark shapes swirling, felt the cold caress of dread slithering around her spine. "So we wait. Waiting gives it power," he replied. "But choosing? That's another story." The walls trembled again, groaning like the earth was alive beneath their feet. Ela could sense it, a choice that would unearth something buried deep. If she picked wrong suddenly, the shadows shifted, pooling together in the center of the kitchen like a swirling storm. Within that darkness, a faint outline emerged, a figure barely visible but undeniably there. It loomed, tall and twisted, eyes glowing with an emerald light that seemed to see straight through her. "Choose," it hissed, voice soaked in malice and temptation. "What have I got to choose from?" Ela snapped, her frustration boiled over. This wasn't just some haunted house, this was her reality, and something unnatural was pushing into her life from the void. The very fabric of her home felt wrong. "You must pick between your fear and your desire," the figure said, mocking her feigned strength. "One will unlock the doorway, the other, your doom." Desire? Fear? Ila's heart raced. She thought of the mundane comforts she craved, a home full of warmth, laughter, peace. And then she thought of the fear, the primal instinct to survive this moment, to escape this living nightmare. "Your fear is a weapon," the man said urgently. "Use it to fight back." As he spoke, the shadows recoiled slightly, as if his words held the power to sway them. His voice fell to a whisper. "I can't sense the range of my instincts. If I choose wrong, it may target me instead of you. You need to make the choice." For a moment, confusion clouded her mind. She could feel the weight of the amulet even from where it lay, pulsing like a heartbeat, begging to be claimed. But how? What if I pick wrong? What if it's all a trick? Fear seeped into her words, mingling with the desperation rising in her belly. Find the truth in your heart, he urged, his eyes wild. Trust yourself. With her heart pounding louder than the thrumming shadows, Ela shut her eyes and drew in a breath. The choice to embrace her fear and face the darkness, or to seek the longing for comfort and hope for light. Choose, the creature hissed again, each syllable slithering like tendrils around her neck. Ela's mind raced, heart screaming. The pulse of the room seemed to quicken. Was it because she hesitated or because the darkness trembled in anticipation? And then, as if the universe aligned at that moment, she opened her eyes. I choose to fight, she declared, determination flooding her veins. She stepped forward, ready to confront the shadows that crept ever closer, but would her choice be the weapon she hoped, or the key to an even darker door? The shadows laughed, the figure's form blurring as the darkness fused and flared, perhaps sealing their fate with her next breath. In the chaos, one thing was clear, whatever was coming would change everything, and just as the air thickened, one last question hung in the space between them, ready to unveil itself. What awaited on the other side of her decision? The air pulled tight around Ela like a noose, the creature's laughter echoing ominously in her ears. She could feel the shadows swirling around her, as if waiting for her command, or for her to falter. Panic surged like a tidal wave, but somewhere within that chaos, a flicker of courage ignited. Face your fears. The man yelled, his voice cutting through the buzz of terror. Don't let it control you. She squeezed her eyes shut again, trying to summon the memories of joy and comfort, the laughter of friends, the warmth of sun on her skin. But the deeper she penetrated those thoughts, the more they warped into nightmares. What if her desire was just another trap? A sweet whisper leading her to destruction. The shadows expanded, pulsating with life and hunger, and a chill settled against her skin like the touch of a predator. Ela drew a breath, trying to steel her resolve. I am stronger than you, she managed to say. Are you? The creature crooned, its voice silk-smooth and thick with venom. Show me. Show me your fear. Show me your desire. Your very essence. The room twisted again, blurring the line between reality and illusion. Images started to rise from the depths of her mind, a childhood memory, playing tag on a sunlit day, her infectious laughter, carefree and free. Next, a shadowy figure loomed over her, mocking the freedom she once felt. A shadow she recognized all too well, the loneliness, the fear of rejection, and the haunting specter of betrayal. Ela's heart tightened. What if she wasn't enough? Suddenly, a jolt surged through her, radiating from the amulet on the counter. It pulsed defiantly, a steady thrum that felt like a heartbeat, alive and vibrant. It was begging her to remember her worth, to recognize the power inside her. With renewed strength, she opened her eyes once more, ready to stand firm. I will not let you take me, she screamed, and a shockwave burst from her core. The shadows recoiled, whipping backward into the dark corners, startled by her sudden fortitude. The figure shrieked, its emerald eyes flickering with rage. You think you can defy me? Choose, I say. Your fear or your desire. I choose myself. Ela cried. I choose to fight. With that declaration, the room erupted in a blinding flash of light. The shadows shrieked, their once solid forms dissipating like mist in the rising sun. As the brightness enveloped her, Ela felt weightless, suspended in a moment of pure clarity. But just as the light began to soothe her frayed nerves, she felt a sharp pull at her heart. The amulet flared brilliantly, drawing her toward it. Shadows that had retreated now curled back, not out of fear but with a sinister hunger for what she had unleashed. All at once, the sound of cracking would echoed through the room, and the kitchen floor trembled violently. It felt like an earthquake building beneath her feet, the world shifting as old secrets stirred awake. No! She gasped, reality splintering around her, her heartbeat racing. What had she really unleashed? The man, standing beside her, looked as if he were caught between two worlds, eyes wide with fear. Ela, what did you do? The shadows surged, more aggressive now, coalescing into forms she couldn't quite make out, twisted beings hungry for something beyond mere despair. And then silence fell, a breathless pause. Raw energy crackled in the air, a silent promise of chaos about to erupt. Was her choice the key to her salvation, or had she unleashed a terrifying force that would consume everything she loved? The question loomed heavy, thick in the charged air, and suddenly, All she could think of was what would happen if she took one wrong step forward. Light bathed the room, illuminating twisted shadows that crept back as if stung by a sudden revelation. Ela felt the warmth suffusing her skin, but a chill still lingered in the corners of her mind. The amulet throbbed on the counter, a relentless heartbeat calling to her. "Stay close to me," she shouted to the man, instinctively stepping backward, feeling the treacherous ground shift beneath her. She could hear creaking, like hints of something old awakening, some ancient consciousness reaching out from the depths. The man stumbled toward her, eyes darting from one corner of the room to the next. "This isn't over, Ela." His voice trembled. "You've done something dangerous." Dangerous? Ela blinked as the realization hit her, a rush of adrenaline sparking through her veins. What if this is what I needed? To confront whatever this is. Confront? He echoed, a mix of admiration and dread in his voice. You think you can just confront it? You might have awoken something that will bring about your end. The shadows wriggled excitedly. They craved the light but loathed it too. Ela watched as they danced, shifting from mere darkness into glimmers of faces, wails hidden in their movements. A growing panic tightened around her chest. "Face your fears. Isn't that what you told me?" She shouted back, her own words echoing like a mantra. But doubt seeped in. She squeezed her eyes shut again, questioning the power she suddenly felt coursing through her. "What if they consume me? Don't let fear grip you," the man yelled, but her doubt flickered like a candle in a storm. Eyes open, Ela reached out toward the amulet glowing brighter than before. The warmth spread through her fingers, enveloping her in an embrace that felt both inviting and threatening. "I can do this," she murmured to herself, willing herself to believe it. With a shaky breath, she stepped closer to where the shadows swirled. They coalesced into forms that morphed with each passing second, figures of past mistakes and lost friendships, lurking fears that taunted her from within the depths of her memory. "Know your fears." The creature's voice reverberated, now sharper and more menacing. "Embrace your despair. It's the only way to gain real power." The kitchen trembled, wood splitting as fractures cascaded across the floor. The man lost his footing, scrambling to regain balance. "Ela, we need to leave." But a surge of defiance washed over her. "No. I want to let them win." In that instant, the shadows lunged toward her, desperate to grab hold of her spirit. Ela clenched her fists, drawing on every ounce of strength she possessed. "You will not take me," she shouted, and with a fierce cry, she slammed her palm against the amulet. A pulse of energy erupted, forcing the shadows to flinch, to recoil into wisps of dark smoke. Heat radiated from the amulet as it resonated with her willpower, fueling her resolve like a fire igniting in dry brush. "Do you feel it?" she screamed, pulling strength from her memories of joy, love, and reckless laughter. It was a potent cocktail for her spirit, sizzling through her like lightning. "This is my essence. You have no hold on me." As her words erupted, she felt the temperature shift abruptly. A violent gust swept through the kitchen, knocking over chairs and sending the shadows scattering, now angry and furious. Static charged the air, crackling as if it were coming alive beneath her feet. "Ela!" The man's shout cut through her focus, panicked and raw, but she couldn't stop. It felt like a dam breaking, a cascade of power flowing through her. Would it be enough? Suddenly, darkness surged back, more powerful and more substantial, converging toward her like a hungry beast. Its intent was clear. This battle wasn't just against her fear, but for her very soul. Ela inhaled sharply, feeling the full weight of her choices bearing down on her. "What have I done?" she whispered, doubt creeping back with a vengeance, the shadows pressing in closer. The tension was unbearable, a handful of seconds stretching into eternity. Would this newfound strength lead her to victory, or would her resolve shatter like glass under pressure? The shadows writhed again, teasing the brink of her sanity. And just when she thought she could break through, a pinprick of light dimmed in the amulet, the ring of energy faltering. "What's happening?" she gasped. As the light began to wane, the shadows swelled, desperate and powerful. The man was at her side, his eyes wide with the realization of what they now faced. "How do we stop this?" he cried, panic lacing his tone. And then she understood this was only the beginning. But what would that mean for her own fight for survival? The question lingered, urgent and gut-wrenching, as the darkness edged closer, hungry for her light. A terrifying cry echoed through the room as the shadows lunged forward, thick and heaving with a life of their own. They twisted, stretched, and morphed into grotesque shapes that threatened to engulf Ela. The amulet flared, pulsing in sync with her heartbeat. She could feel the heat waning, flickering like a dying flame. "Hold on," the man shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. He threw himself next to her, trying to shield her from the impending swarm. His presence, though shaky, anchored her in the storm of fear. "We can't let it take us," the shadows hissed, their voices intertwining, swirling in a cacophony that assaulted her senses. "You think you can defy us? You are nothing," they echoed, their tone chilling. Ela's heart raced. "I don't care what you say," she shot back, though her voice felt small amid the onslaught. She was grappling with the weight of her past, the harsh whispers of failure and regret clawing at her confidence. The man squeezed her hand. "We need to channel the energy, use the amulet focus." She nodded, biting her lip to stave off the crowding panic. A strange courage coiled within her, igniting revelations she had buried for too long. Didn't he have to be merely a victim? Didn't he have to yield to the shadows? "Together," Ela shouted. Steeling herself, she raised the amulet, its warmth surging, casting a glow that pushed back the breathing darkness. She felt the energy swirl around her, willing her to harness it, but the shadows retaliated, roaring back with palpable anger. They clawed at her mind, twisting her resolve. "You don't belong here. You will sink into despair." She felt the weight of their malice, seeped in her memories. A childhood of secrets, the betrayals that had cut deeper than knives, every failure paraded before her eyes like a macabre gallery. The darkness toyed with her, probing her vulnerabilities, trying to classify her worth with cruel precision. "No," she cried, shaking her head violently as if that could dislodge their grasp. She cast a sidelong glance at the man. His face mirrored her fear, a thin sheen of sweat glistened on his brow. Yet there was something else there. Hope. "Fight back, Ela," he urged, his eyes aflame with determination. Right. This was her moment. With a surge of strength, Ela unleashed everything she had into the amulet. The room crackled with energy as light erupted from the gem, illuminating the dark tendrils that pressed against her. The shadows recoiled, screeching, as the light met their darkness like water meeting fire. She breathed in deeply, calling forth memories that anchored her, laughter with friends, the warmth of family, her steadfast resolve in the face of adversity. "You don't own me," she shouted, pouring every emotion into her words. For a fleeting moment, she saw their shapes falter, wavering at the edges as if her light was indeed consuming them. The shadows hissed, scrambling back, their forms twisting and contorting with rage. "Keep going," the man urged, now fully aligned with her, channeling his fear into strength. They stood like a fortress against the tide of despair, but that moment was fraught with danger. In the distance, a deep rumble grew, vibrating through the wooden floorboards. Walls creaked as if the very house protested, bones groaning under unbearable pressure. "What's happening?" she gasped, her eyes darting to the windows that rattled violently, dark clouds swirling in the night sky beyond. "This isn't just your battle anymore," the man shouted, his voice strained. "They're calling for reinforcements." And then, the air thickened as the shadows morphed, peering through as they beckoned something far worse. A grotesque figure formed at the edge of the darkness, intimidating with a presence that chilled her to the bone. Ela's heart plummeted as she began to grasp the insidious truth. This darkness was just a pawn in a much larger game, one that now tightened the noose around her heart. "What is it?" she barely managed to utter, locking eyes with the looming figure. It smiled, wide and sinister, its jagged teeth gleaming like knives. Then she understood this was merely the prelude to something much darker. As the figure advanced, she felt despair twist like a knife in her gut. A force she had barely begun to understand was ready to unleash chaos. And suddenly, the shadows began to laugh, a chilling sound that echoed off the walls, heralding the real nightmare that lay ahead. What had she truly set in motion? And could they stand against it when the real battle was yet to come? The grotesque figure stepped from the shadows, its form undulating like black smoke, tendrils reaching into the space around it. Ela could feel its cold gaze piercing through her, scrutinizing her every frail inch. Panic bubbled up inside her, a suffocating urgency to flee, but there was nowhere to go. The swirling shadows encircled her, a relentless tide of fear. "Do you not recognize your own darkness?" It rasped, its voice like gravel scraping against a chalkboard. Ila's stomach twisted as memories crept in like ink spreading through water, the moments of defeat, the betrayals that cut her down, the times she had given up on herself. "I am your fears made manifest. I am all the things you loathe." "No," the man shouted, stepping closer to Ela, desperately clenching her hand tighter. "We're not afraid. We refuse to let you take her." His voice rang out clear, but the tremor in it echoed their shared terror. The figure laughed, a cold and hollow sound that rattled their bones. "You think defiance will save you? It only fuels me." As it advanced further, Ela felt her defenses slipping. The light from the amulet flickered, its warmth dimming against the oppressive presence. The shadows lashed out, their clutch tightening around her throat, squeezing the breath from her lungs. She fought it, desperately clinging to the flickering spark of hope ignited within her. "Focus on what matters," she heard the man shout, pulling her back. "Your strength is your light. Don't forget who you are." With those words, Ela remembered the simple truth that life can deliver. Her worth wasn't defined by the past or the darkness around her. The love she had for herself, the flickers of joy buried deep, those were her weapons. Fueled by the man's unwavering belief, she inhaled deeply. With a fierce determination, she thrust the amulet toward the grotesque figure. "You don't own me," she cried, her voice rising above the cacophony of shadows. Light exploded from the amulet, brighter than before, battling back against the dark with every ounce of her defiance. Searing beams slashed through the inky mass, illuminating parts of her heart long shrouded in fear. The shadows recoiled, howling in torment, as the deformed figure staggered back, its features contorting with rage. "More!" the man yelled, his eyes sparkling with fervor. "Let it consume you. Embrace it." But as Ela channeled every positive memory into her light, something unexpected happened. A pulse of energy surged through her veins. It emanated from deep within, an ancient power rising to meet her call, a flood of strength that connected her with all of those who had ever fought the darkness before. Together, the warmth from the amulet bathed them both in a golden glow, pushing back the darkness with renewed vigor. The figure writhed, its form flickering like a candle in the wind. "You think this is the end? I will return," it hissed, and with a final grotesque howl, it faded into the inky shadows, retreating like a wounded beast. Ila's breaths came hard, she felt a deep weariness settling in her bones. The room stilled, the suffocating weight of the shadows lifting. She turned to the man, her eyes wide with a mixture of relief and disbelief. Did we win?" For a moment, silence hung in the air as they soaked in the aftermath of their battle. But deep down, Ela felt an ominous stirring. A shadow flickered in the corner of her vision, a reminder that this wasn't over. "I don't know," he replied, his voice a shaky whisper. "But we need to find out what else lurks in the dark." As they stood in the dimly lit room, the weight of victory was overshadowed by uncertainty, a question lingering in the air more potent than fear itself. What new horrors waited in the realms of darkness? And just as the thought surfaced, a soft whisper echoed through the emptiness, a promise from the shadows: "We'll be back." Ela clenched her fists, her mind racing. This was far from over. They could not let their guard down. With a fierce resolve ignited within them, they prepared to delve deeper into the mystery and danger that awaited. Knowing the true test of their strength was still ahead. The air hung thick with the remnants of the darkness they had just fought. Ela leaned against the wall, her heart racing while she tried to catch her breath. The man, eyes wide with worry, scanned the corners of the room as if expecting the grotesque figure to return at any moment. "I can't shake this feeling," he murmured, wiping the sweat from his brow. "We might have won this battle, but the war, it's not over." She nodded, fighting back the unease clawing at her throat. Together, they had summoned something powerful, something inside them that drove away the shadows, even if only temporarily. But at what cost? The words of the figure echoed in her mind, taunting her. "I will return." "What do we do now?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Stay alert. We need to find the source, the heart of this darkness. This place holds more than just echoes of fear, I can feel it. He stepped closer, his eyes locked on hers. Whatever it is, we have to face it head on. The room felt unsteady, shifting beneath them as if the very foundation pulsed with an unknown energy. Ela swallowed hard, her stomach twisting in protest. How could they face what they didn't understand? Let us check that corner, he said, pointing to a patch of shadows that seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting with a life of its own. As they moved closer, the edges distorted. Dark shapes writhed and twisted, almost forming faces. Ila's heart raced, fear cascading over her like a waterfall. I don't know if we should, she hesitated, the walls closing in. Together, he repeated, the fire in his voice igniting a sliver of bravery in her heart. They stepped forward side by side, reaching the swirling darkness. It seemed to beckon them, whispering secrets and promises of both fear and power, but the atmosphere shifted abruptly. The shadows darkened, and a low growl resonated deep from within. Ela took a step back, her pulse echoing in her ears. What do you think it is? Perhaps a portal, he murmured, all thoughts of retreat evaporating. Or a trap laid for us. Before they could step away, the shadows twisted violently. A figure emerged, not grotesque like the last, but undeniably familiar. Why are you here? It demanded, its voice a haunting melody, resonating deep in their bones. A new kind of darkness. Ela whispered, dread tightening in her chest. Your darkness, the figure responded cryptically, a smile spreading across its face, revealing sharp teeth. And I'm here to show you the way. Ila's heart raced. Was this another manifestation of her fears or a guide to something deeper? With every ounce of strength, she pushed down the rising tide of panic. The man beside her stepped in front, protective, determined. We're not afraid of you. The figure laughed, its eyes gleaming with mischief. You should be. We all have shadows to face. But I'm not your enemy unless you make me one. Ila's gaze darted to the amulet, still glowing faintly around her neck. The warmth it provided was a lifeline, a beacon in the encroaching dark. What do you want? She asked, standing firm, her voice steadier than she felt. I want to help you unlock your true potential, the figure replied, its form pulsating with energy. But first, you must confront the darkness within, and trust me. She exchanged glances with the man beside her. A lump formed in her throat. Trust was no easy bargain, especially not now. Think carefully, the figure urged, the shadows swirling with anticipation. You have more at stake than you realize. The walls trembled around them, as if the very structure of their reality was shifting. Ela felt the weight of the decision heavy on her chest, knowing it might alter everything moving forward. What if the figure was offering salvation, or damnation? Either way, she knew the true challenge was just beginning. She took a deep breath. Then the shadows whispered again, the choice is yours to make, but can you face the truth? And just like that, she found herself on the precipice of a revelation, the darkness beckoning her to step into its depths. What awaited her on the other side? Ela stared into the swirling masses of darkness, every nerve in her body screaming to run the other way. The man's presence beside her was a silent promise, but even that felt fragile under the weight of uncertainty. Did she have the strength to face whatever truth the shadowy figure offered, or to confront her own darkness? Trust it, the figure said, its voice slithering through the air like smoke. Trust yourself. You have the power to change everything. What do you mean? Ela asked, a tremor in her voice she couldn't quite hide. The figure merely smiled wider, sharp teeth glinting with a predatory gleam. I mean your fears, it said. The pain you bury deep inside. That's where the real power lies. Bridge that gap, and you may yet conquer both your inner and outer demons. A sick knot twisted in her gut. Ela felt the familiar grip of fear as it clawed at her resolve. Was it true? Could her buried traumas be the hidden key? She thought of the countless nightmares, the relentless echo of disappointment, the darkness that loomed in her past. Suddenly, the room pulsed, sending vibrations rippling through her. Shadows surged forward, almost like liquid, coiling around her legs as if trying to drag her down further into the abyss. Panic seized her heart. She fought against the pull, her breath hitching. Ela! The man shouted, his voice slicing through the tension. Don't fight it. His outstretched hand reached for her, firm and steady. The warmth radiating from it grounded her, pulling her back from the precipice. With every ounce of determination, she tightened her grip on his hand. I won't let go, she declared, finding strength in her resolve. The figure seemed to flicker, its form entangled in the shadows. You think you can resist? All light has its source in darkness. It's where you find your true self. Enough, Ela shouted, fueled by a surge of defiance. You don't scare me. If there's power in facing my fears, then let us bring it out. Let us see what this darkness really holds. The shadows erupted, high-pitched wails tearing through the air, echoing her declaration. As the noise crescendoed, the darkness pulled back, revealing a shimmering pathway of light woven through the chaos. It was intoxicating, calling to her deeper than the fears did, illuminating dark recesses of her mind. Step into the light, then, the figure taunted. Face what you've hidden, but be warned what you find could shatter you. She bit her lip. Was she really ready to confront this? To unravel the truth buried within? Together, the man urged softly, his eyes locked on hers. No matter what it is, I'm with you. Taking a trembling breath, Ela nodded. It was now or never. They would breach the boundaries of fear together, come what may. Hand in hand, they took a step forward. The light beckoned them closer, illuminating their path as they stepped onto the shimmering surface. Suddenly, a scene unfolded before them, a tumultuous memory, raw and charged with emotion. Ela gasped as she recognized the silhouette of a younger version of herself, standing in the shadows of an all-too-familiar room. There she was, watching herself retreat into the dark when life became too much to handle. Ela, the figure whispered, now looming closer, what will you decide for your past? Will you continue to hide? Heart-pounding, Ela faced her younger self. The sensation of vulnerability flooded through her. How could she reconcile her past with her present? What was waiting for her back there, freedom or more pain? The shadows slithered again, creeping towards her like predatory beasts. Shatter your chains, or be consumed. The figure commanded, the intensity in its voice pushing her forward. Ila's heart raced as she felt the weight of the moment press down on her. She could feel the past catching up to her like a storm, threatening to drag her into an abyss. What if she couldn't handle this? Face it. Just face it. With a fierce breath, Ela pushed against the memories threatening to drown her. What would happen next? Would she forge a new path, or would the darkness consume everything she cared for? The moment was upon her and she could either fight or fall through. What awaited her in the depths of that memory, sealed behind layers of fear? Ela struggled to make sense of the scene before her. The room echoed with the hum of regret and fear, the all-too-familiar shadows looming around her childhood self. She couldn't stand by and let those memories engulf her, but the pressure was suffocating, a vice tightening around her heart. Ela, you must confront her, the shadowy figure urged, its voice dripping with a mix of malice and encouragement. She holds the key to your past. The younger version of herself looked lost, small, and frightened, her eyes reflecting confusion and sorrow. Why did you abandon me? She whispered, her voice a fragile tremor that clawed at Ila's heart. No. I'm here now. Ela cried out. I didn't leave you. I just didn't know how to help you. The words poured out like a stream of pain rushing to the surface. The room shifted, warping as the shadows crept closer, wrapping around her younger self like a suffocating blanket. Face your truth, the voice of the shadow echoed, urging her forward, shadows ensnaring her memories with relentless claws. Embrace your pain, or be trapped forever in its chains. But it was too much. The memories clawed at her mind, bitterness intertwined with her pulse. She remembered the whispers of doubt, the moments when she wished for nothing more than to disappear into the shadows, to become one with the darkness. But she couldn't let that be her legacy. Not now. Taking a deep breath, Ela stepped closer, the warmth of the amulet pulsing against her heart. I'm not afraid of you anymore, she said, her heart pounding as she reached out to her younger self. I am strong enough to embrace you, to carry you with me. As she spoke, the shadows around her shrieked, recoiling as if stung. Ela felt a surge of determination coursing through her. I choose to confront you, every dark moment, every wound. You are a part of me. The young girl blinked up at her, eyes wide, and suddenly, the darkness began to unravel, exposing the cracks in its facade. I've been waiting for you, the younger Ela whispered, a glimmer of hope brightening her features. Yes, Ela urged. Together, we're stronger than this. Let us fight. With her hand outstretched, she felt the energy of the universe shift. The shadows screeched, angry yet scared, as a light blossomed from the amulet, igniting the corners of the room with its brilliance. The dark tendrils that had encased them began to dissolve, retreating into nothingness, and then, the grotesque figure roared, anger mixing with fear as it began to twist and flail, its shape breaking apart like glass shatter. You cannot defeat me, it screamed, voice clinging to the walls, vibrating with fury. I am the embodiment of every failure you've ever known. But they stood together, higher and more powerful than before. No longer. Ela shouted, a fierce energy filling her. You'll be remembered for what you are, a shadow that cannot bind my spirit. The amulet pulsed brightly in her hand, releasing waves of light that enveloped the black figure. It howled in rage, luminous energy consuming it, banishing it back to the desolate corners of the universe. As the light flickered, the air began to settle. Ela and her younger self stood in a serene space, calm, quiet. The shadows had retreated entirely, leaving behind only a sense of relief. Breathless, Ela turned to the figure that had tormented them. The swirling darkness had vanished, and all that lingered was a sense of triumph. She felt lighter, the burdens of her past echoing less. Thank you, the younger Ela whispered, tears shining in her eyes. You've set me free. Thank you for showing me the way, Ela replied, embracing her younger self. Now we move forward. They turned towards the door leading back to reality, the air around them filled with warmth and softness. The amulet glimmered ever so subtly, a calming echo of their victory. Ela and the man shared a knowing look, their breaths calmer, and for the first time in a long while, she felt hope surge through her. Together, he echoed, squeezing her hand. Together, she agreed, stepping towards their new beginning. The darkness had tried, but their bond, a bond built of strength, courage, and love, had vanquished it for good. The night shifted and softened, a gentle promise of dawn creeping on the horizon. The fight wasn't over, but Ela knew now that whatever lay ahead, shadows, fears, or darkness, they would face it together. And with that thought, they stepped into the light, leaving the past behind, ready to embrace the unknown with hearts ablaze. Now that you've soaked in this incredible conclusion, it's time to act. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep our community going strong. Don't just exit, flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this thrilling ending, and remember, this is the moment to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to show your support. Only true fans understand how vital your actions are in building this amazing community.